The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that a thriving business community is good for us all. That's why we help entrepreneurs start businesses with tools like Gale Business Builder. Keep commerce rolling by providing access to computers, printers, and free Wi-Fi at 14 branch locations. Get a library card. Grow your business at ebrpl.com/business.
Started making beer at home and immediately fell in love with it. After just like the day of my first batch of brewing, I was already thinking, can I do this for a living?
Oh yeah, obsessed with it. He was totally consumed by it, and then looked at me one day and told me I was put on this earth to brew beer. And I was like, wow, that is such a bold statement. And if you can say that about anything, then you need to follow your dream and do it.
Good morning and welcome to Strictly Business. I'm your host, Penny Font. This webcast features conversations with Louisiana's most influential CEOs, entrepreneurs, and community leaders with the goal of providing insights, ideas, and inspiration to help you and your business grow. We want to keep Strictly Business as interactive as possible. So for those of us joining us live, here's an icebreaker question for you. Submit your vote in the comments and the results will be posted at the end of the webcast. Strictly Business is brought to you by the East Baton Rouge Parish Library and Home Bank. Without their support, this project would not be possible. This month, we're talking with Mike Polito, founder and CEO of MAP Construction. Mike is going to take us through the successful growth of a company through his own experience at MAP. He'll share with us the challenges, the strategies, and the decision-making, the importance of team dynamics and leadership, the impact of industry and market evolution, and what he envisions for the future of his company. He will also share some personal reflections on his journey. Mike, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Penny. I look forward to visiting with you.
Let's start with just some general background questions. So why construction for you?
It's a great question. I originally wanted to be a sports information director, but realized that there was only one sports information director position that I would want, and thought maybe that was too limiting myself. So I changed majors in college because I had a bunch of cousins that had graduated in construction from LSU, and that's why. No really rhyme or reason other than that. They seemed to be successful, so I said, well, I'll go into that area, and I've loved it ever since. It's been an enjoyable career for me.
Was obviously a great decision. Tell us about your decision to launch your own firm. What was your vision at the time, and how has that vision evolved since 1991?
Well, I'm not sure I decided to launch a firm. I met a fellow by the name of Wayne Grigsby, who pretty much decided for me. He and I met, and over the course of a night at the patio lounge, we decided that we would go in business. He thought it was the perfect thing for me to do, and then a couple of weeks later, we started in business. So I'm not so sure that I quote unquote had a lot of decision making there. It was an obvious opportunity that you couldn't pass up. For somebody like that to support you. The vision was always to grow a strong, well-respected regional type of company. I think we never ever, because that's Lane's business, Cajun, was that way. They were a growing big operation, had been in business for 20 years at that time, and so not to say to follow in those footsteps, but I never really thought, well, I just want to build a small construction company. I worked for larger construction companies, and so I thought that's what we would ultimately try to do, and not to say be the biggest and the baddest, but to be bigger than just a small construction company. So
Gotcha.
That vision hasn't changed.
Okay. So fill us in on the concept of a MAPI.
I'm not really sure where that actually started, but a MAPI is one of our, we look at our folks at MAP that work at MAP as internal clients as opposed to an external client. So we focus really hard on that. The concept is just that, just like in any organization or, I don't know, it's an endearing name that kind of lets everybody know that there's somebody that is a part of something bigger than just coming to work every day. And it has grown. I'm not even sure when it started. Somebody asked me that a while back, and but it has caught on, and it is something that I think most of our employees, most of the Mappies are proud to call themselves Mappy, and we kind of make fun of it every once in a while. But it's just something that kind of makes them a part of it.
The ones that I've met are very proud, so that's a great name and a great culture thing for your company.
Yeah, we're proud of them. They're a lot of fun to be around.
In keeping with your vision, MAP has seen significant growth over the years. Please give us the 5 biggest growth milestones as you see them, and share with us what have been the primary drivers for that growth.
Well, the primary drivers for every milestone of growth that I can think of have been people that have taken a great leap of faith with MAP. The first being, we were a small construction company. We started in 91, and sometime in, I can't remember now, 93, 94, I got a call from a fellow by the name of Richard Setliff. And Richard was an icon in Baton Rouge construction and New Orleans construction, having worked in the industry for a number of years. Everybody loved him. And he had moved to New Orleans and was running a company down there. And he and I had touched base. I'd always tried to get a job with Richard when I was at LSU. And he never had anything for me. I guess he didn't think I was worth offering the role to. And so I stayed in touch with him throughout my few years out of college. And he called me and said he was ready to move back to Baton Rouge and had heard that we were making some waves. And we talked, and it was a very hard decision for me because I'm not sure I could afford to pay him. And we did, and he came on board. So it was a big leap of faith, and it was an immediate engine for growth because everybody immediately took us serious in the business, and so that was a big milestone. I guess the next big milestone was shortly after that, and largely because of Richard, we won the Catfish Town casino development, the big atrium there that is still there. We won that project against all the big boys in town, and it was a big surprise, and obviously it put us on the road to respectability, and everybody in town, started thinking of us as somebody, and we did a good job, and the project was successful. So that was a big one. I think probably the next two would be the addition of Mark Lahaye and Pat Hermser. Mark came to us. He was a classmate of mine. Richard and I decided we needed to grow and add on some people, and he became a key leader in the organization and brought some stability to our pre-construction effort. Pat Hermser, I guess, sometime in '96. So we built Catfish Town, and we're starting to feel our legs a little bit, and we decided we needed to grow towards more regional effort because we thought Baton Rouge market was a little small for the size we wanted to get to profitably. We probably could have done it, but not as profitable because there is a lot of competition here for the size of the market. So we started looking around. I fell by the name of Pat Hermser in Dallas, caught our attention, and we opened an office in Dallas. And he took a big jump to come over, and I think that those 2 or 3 things were probably the biggest milestones fueling the early growth of the organization. So, after that, it just comes with more people that have joined our company over the years or have grown within the company to become leaders that have energized and fueled the growth. Most recently, we've been fortunate to be able to promote some folks from within, like Bradley Tassan and recently Brant Granger, but Brant retired at the ripe old early age of 35 or whatever. But so I think it's all revolves around people. We've had some great clients take big leaps of faith with us as well. So Catfish Town being one. There was no reason really for them to hire us other than the fact that we had the best team. Certainly, we didn't have the background to do that. So that's true and consistent today. I think people taking leaps of faith with us.
I really like the way you see the key milestones as people. That's very telling. As the company grew, what were some of the most unexpected challenges you faced?
People. It comes down to we always, as you grow, there are the unknowns of growth that get you, whether it's a lack of a particular process or system or something that you didn't see around the corner. But that's, kind of what comes with growth. And it's exciting. It's why, if it was always the same thing, why would you do it, right? So that is the fun part of growth, is trying to figure out the challenges that are coming up so that you can plan for them. So that would be the biggest thing that I think is the unknown type of stuff.
With all of the rapid growth that you've experienced, how do you ensure that MAP's core values and culture stay intact?
You got to work at it. I always tell people, one of our core values is having fun, and which is not just something that means we like to go out and have fun. It's about building relationships, right? And so you have to work at that, and that's I compare it to some of the big companies that we work with, the oil and gas industry companies that we work with. They're very, very safety culture driven. I mean, safety is a focus. They work very, very hard at it, and and you have to do that with your values. You have to work at it, and you have to be mindful of it. One of the things that we did even recently in the last, I guess it's been, 3 years now, COVID time, we brought in a consulting firm model, the consulting firm that Patrick Lencioni. I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni, but he's written, 7, 8, 9 books that are really, I just love, and I focus a lot on his approach to things. And we brought in his consulting group to help us focus on our values and our they call it the belief system, right? And so you really have to drive it down to every mapping. They have to understand how we behave and what we treasure. And I think that without it, you really don't have a company. You just have a group of individuals that work together. And so it's important. We work at it. We talk about it all the time. We have what do we call it? Cascading messages that we're constantly driving down from leadership that are involving our values, and we celebrate people that do a great job with our values. So we have a program we call Hats Off, that anybody can give somebody else a hats off, recognize them within the company, and it's a great program, and it keeps that focus on the values that, hey, this is what we say we're going to do. So and people fail sometimes. They don't behave accordingly, and that's okay. That we but other people need to be there to remind them that, hey, that's not quite exactly our belief system. So
being so deliberate about it. Yeah.
It is, we thought we were good at it until the Lencioni group, the table group came in and started showing us how we could really be good at it. And it's been fun to watch how much better we are really at doing it and at being a true believer of our values.
That's so cool. Can you share a specific strategic decision that you made that significantly propelled MAP's growth?
Hiring Richard Sutliff. I've always said I don't really have everybody talks about 5-year plans. We have one, and we really have this last one. We've been more intentional in focusing on it. A lot of that with the help of the table group, but we've got a group of people in our organization now that are more intentional about strategy. I was always kind of the guy that threw everything up on the wall and, saw what stuck and kind of wiggled our way through it. So I can't say I'm the most strategic person, but I think that if there's one strategy that runs through the theme of our growth, it's being able to hire really good people. And to get them, because I think in our industry, there's a lot of good contractors. They can build buildings, and so our overarching, we want to be different in the market, which I guess is a strategy of sorts. I don't look at it as a strategy, as just more of a how we do things. Is we want to be thought of as the construction company that provides the best experience and that is closest and most intimate with the client. And that client can be, again, internal, MAPI, a trade partner, a supplier, the public, or it can be the architect, the engineer, the owner itself. So we want to be very intimate in the relationship. And if there's a strategy, I think that would be the one that resonates with me, that we do the best.
I love that. How do you balance short-term gains with long-term sustainability and growth objectives?
I don't know that you can ever. You have to focus, obviously, on long-term decision making. And I think that's where leadership comes into play. And when I say leadership, the top levels of the organization, because they're the ones that have to be thinking long-term. You want your the folks that are learning and growing and coming up the ranks to always be focused on the short term, with certainly an eye on the long term. But, I just think it's a matter of taking a deep breath and saying, okay, how does this impact the long term? Always thinking about the long term. But most decision at the end of the day, I hate to say it, and it may not sound what you would expect, but most decision making at the end of the day is relatively short term, because what is long term and how do you define it? Well, so long term, strategies that we always like to implement is continuing education, training, all these things that are going to catapult us long term that we may not see the result of here. Those are decisions and money spent, that you have to invest in. So I guess it's usually, I would say that they're pretty much even Stevens, but most of the short-term decisions we make seem to impact the long-term. So you do have to be careful with it.
Absolutely. How critical is innovation in maintaining and propelling MAP's growth in the industry? And also talk to us about some of the innovations that differentiate MAP in a rather crowded industry, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah. We want to be, for the size company we want to have all the bells and whistles and widgets and innovation that in the industry that the industry has, whether it's the BIM, which is a modeling technique, or modeling tool that you use to model 3D modeling, whether it's there's software that now that you can walk around the job site and create images, 3D images of the entire job site that you can play with and compare to the drawings so that you're building it right. All of that, I call it communication tools. I mean, I know it's probably got a different name and not something but being able to communicate in a 3D world has changed construction. Now, construction is the least innovative industry and the least disrupted industry in the country, and just because and there's a lot of money being thrown at it now to change that. But I would say just our open-mindedness towards innovation has separated us over the years, especially in South Louisiana. When you're competing in Dallas and you're competing in Atlanta, those markets are highly innovative. And so you learn from them, and then you try to keep up with the Joneses in those markets, and then you tend to be a little bit ahead of the curve in South Louisiana. So we always try to do something different. I think in the end is we make sure that our people understand that we want to challenge the status quo, that the status quo is not acceptable. So anything they can bring to the table, because that's where innovation comes from. It doesn't come from me saying, let's be innovative. It comes from a project manager in our IT department getting together and coming up with a new way to do something. So, so I don't have any specific things. I think we do very well with all of the gadgets that are out there for construction right now. We're certainly very much into the data to wisdom mindset, so which helps us in our decision-making processes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. What specific leadership qualities do you believe have been indispensable for you in leading a growing company like MAP?
I hate to sound like but it really comes down to listening and being there. As a leader, I just can't imagine that there's really any other major quality that is important to the folks that you're working with, and that's across the board. That's with clients, external clients. That's with architects, is listening to their vision, what they're trying to accomplish, so that you can help them accomplish it, and caring about their vision as an architect. And the same is true with our mappies. If everybody's different, I think we have a couple hundred mappies right now, so every one of them is unique, and they're all looking for something different. Some want to be the president of MAP. Some want to just have a great time, work hard, and go home to their family and spend time with their family and not be worried about having this big career. So you have to know. I think the more you can know about them, the better you can lead the organization, because those are the folks you're leading. So caring and listening, and then and not ignoring at the end of the day. You can't. I tell the company and all the mappies all the time that I can't wake up every morning thinking about each one of them. They can, and so they do. It's a two-way street, right? They have to speak up, as well as me and the rest of our leadership coming and visiting with them and getting to know them. But they have to be. It's a two-way street, and I saw a LinkedIn post this morning from one of my trade partners talking about all the things that employees should be doing to make it. What is their part of the bargain? And in my comment to that was, when it's a partnership, it really does become magical when you have a company and a leadership group and a group of. And everybody, they're working hard, and you're working hard to help them work hard, so listening, I guess. Sorry if I carried on a little bit too much.
Not at all. That's a wonderful, wonderful philosophy for leadership. You brought up, some employees want to be president. You recently named Corbett Nichter president of MAP. So tell us about your strategy there and what it means for MAP's future.
Well, it's time for us to transition leadership and different roles. We're at that age of a company. We're 30 something years old, and I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So it has been wonderful to see Corbett come into the organization over the last year and a half, and get the buy-in of the entire group of Mappies. And so the strategy is to develop that executive, quote unquote, I don't like the word executive, but that leadership team that will run the business going forward. So I'm a CEO now, whatever that means. I'm not so sure. It's a whole lot different than but it's allowing them to manage the business and to hold people accountable as well as drive growth. Corbett comes to the organization having done that for another large organization, much larger than us. He was the COO of a nationwide $1.5 billion organization. So we're at that point where, frankly, I've grown a company. I say, that's not exactly what I meant, but I've not grown a company from the level we're at to where we want to go. And nobody in our organization has either. And Corbett has done that and has been involved in that. And so that's a big part of the reason he fits right in. He's got he's probably a little bit more disciplined. He's not a throw the spaghetti on the wall guy. And so that's the general thought is time to transition. And at the same time, we're going to continue to grow. And we need people that know how to can see a little bit around those corners that we talked about some time ago.
It'll be exciting to see what he does.
Yeah, we're excited.
What advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses in a competitive market like yours?
I don't have a great deal of advice there. I can only tell you what was successful for me was just to get up and work at it every day, and not to put a lot of pressure on yourself for immediate success. It takes time. The old overnight success story is, I'm sure they're out there, but it takes time. It takes a little bit of luck, and it takes keeping your mind open to allowing that luck to happen. Entrepreneur generally are very much risk takers. I'm not a big risk taker, but you have to take some risks, and you have to be willing to be disappointed and get up and get after it again, because there's going to be disappointment. And I can't tell you how much disappointment we've had in 30 some years, plenty, and we're going to have it tomorrow. It's just the nature of it. And so I would just say, keep taking the risk and keep working at it, and work towards your vision. It's stick to itness, I guess, is the right word. I'm not sure.
Good advice. Thank you. I want to get into some personal reflection here. So you were one of the original Austin Six, which was a movement of young business people in the early 2000s aimed at helping Baton Rouge evolve. So I have a two-part question here. First, when you look back, how would you assess how far Baton Rouge has come since then? And has that had any impact on MAP's growth? And second, we're starting to see a new generation pick up that torch, so to speak, to put Baton Rouge on the map as an entrepreneurial and creative hub. So I want to also get your thoughts about that and the future impact it might have.
Well, I don't think Baton Rouge has come far enough. As much as we would like it to. I think it has come and made great strides. I really do. I think, in those Austin 6 times, I guess, we were in our 40s maybe, and we were just looking for change, right? In Baton Rouge, the old guard, hanging on to power, and I hate to use the word power, but hanging on to things, and so we were pushing and trying to get some things changed, and we were able to accomplish a few things. And so I do think that Baton Rouge over the last 20 years has certainly become more vibrant, more entrepreneurial than it was then, and more, I don't like to use the word progressive either, but more progressive, not as stuck in the mud as it may have been then. So I think it's doing well. I am tremendously excited about the next group, and I hope that what we were trying to accomplish without knowing it was getting Baton Rouge to realize that at some point, it's that younger generation that needs to decide what Baton Rouge needs to look like in the future. I was quoted once as saying that we don't need people that are going to be dead in 20 years deciding what Baton Rouge is going to look like in 20 years. And that also goes back to the decision to bring Corbett in. As a business guy, I'm at that age where it's hard for me to be the visionary, right? I mean, I want to be, but we got to have somebody else that is a younger generation that understands the innovation that is occurring in the industry. I don't have the time or that skill set. So it's the same in the city of Baton Rouge. Is we need the older generation to support the younger generation in what they want. Take their wisdom, so to speak, or their scars, and help them change Baton Rouge so that we're always changing and we're always getting better. So that's how I look at it. I think it's awesome and it's funny that I've had in the last 6 months at least 10 or 12 of those kind of conversations with young people asking about Austin 6. I mean, and really all it is getting people directly involved that don't think they can change things, and giving them a project that they're passionate about so that they can change things. I was at an event Saturday night or Friday, it was Saturday night, and I can't remember the lady, I hate to say it, but she started the Tigerland cleanup crew or whatever it is. She's got 200 people out cleaning up Baton Rouge. That's making a difference, and that's really what these young people and then hopefully folks that can support them. So that, I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see what they do. I do see it happening all over town now, and it's nice because it had been kind of quiet for a few years at Baton Rouge, and I'm glad to see people stirring it up a little bit and making some waves. And that's really what it's all about, is you got to challenge the status quo, because the status quo does not want to be challenged. So I look forward to seeing what they do.
I love to see that connection between the two movements. That's very, very cool.
Yeah. Look forward.
Last question. How do you personally define success for yourself, and do you feel you've achieved it with MAP?
Success is a very finite, in my mind, term, and it has to do with the past. And so I just don't look at it that way. We've had a good run, and we're going to have another good run, and we focus on tomorrow and what that looks like. And so, I can tell you that what success will look like for us going forward will be this great group of Mappies enjoying their successes. So I look out that way. I think from a personal, what I look for in the future is being able to always look at MAP as a vibrant company that is contributing to the communities that it's in, building great things, and helping to change our industry. One of the things is, our industry is always a little behind the curve. Whether it's professionalism or what, used to be in the old days, everybody got to go hire a contractor. We were kind of the inherent evil. That's changed. I think we're much more respected, but we need to continue to evolve the industry. I mean, even if you look at the diversity in the industry, and I'm not a DEI guy where I feel like I got to have a bunch of policies to create it. We're very good at it. We have a very diverse organization, but the industry is not very diverse. So we look good. We look good just by default. And so those are all kind of things that I think that I like to focus on as we go forward, is to help the industry, help our city. And that would be success to me, is if we could, at the end of it all, everybody says, hey, look, there was a lot of change and improvement that occurred because MAP was around or whatever. So that's it.
Mike, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and for sharing your wisdom, your insights, your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Well, Penny, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, and for the guy behind the camera there, Tim, behind the scenes with thanks, Tim, for setting all this up.
And thanks also to our viewers for joining us today, as well as our sponsors, the East Baton Rouge Parish Library and Home Bank. Please join us on October 18th for the next edition of Strictly Business. Until then, enjoy and make your day a great one.